Serious, what's a secret you will take to the grave but don't mind telling on the internet? I had a sweet, wonderful student who had been in foster care, but his mom worked her ass off to get him back, and she did. He had to take a very important state exam. I have no idea why I wrote city exam, and she called me and asked if he passed it. I looked at the grades and saw he did and said so. She burst into tears of joy, and that is when I saw I had read the wrong score. He had failed. So I changed his grade to passing. No one knew. That was the only time I ever did that. That could have cost me my license. The weird thing is, and my awful corrupt principal pressured me to change other students' scores so we could raise our pass rate. I refused. I never told anyone what I did for my student. He went into the military. Was extremely successful there. Has a great wife and kids. So I think I did the right thing. FCK those tests. They aren't human. Only I know that my mother-in-law killed her dog by sitting on it. I used to work for the airport and so got very discounted fares for friends and family. My mom was going on a trip with her friend to Key West and they were gonna drive since flying was too expensive. I talked her into letting me handle the flying arrangements and they'd save a ton. A typical $500 plus flight turned into like $250 for both of them combined. Well, I was still kinda new at booking reservations and whatnot. And I ended up screwing up the reservation. I think I only booked it for one way or something. So the night before their flight, I rebooked it. And paid the $450 for the both of them, money I really didn't have, and have since never told my mom. It was for Mother's Day. So I figured that was my gift to her. It's been nearly 10 years since. Speaking of grave. When I was a teenager, some friends and I got really stoned and walked around the town cemetery. There was a whole section of generic flat grave markers from the 1800s. I found myself trying to imagine their lives in the same town I lived so long ago. Then I saw one plate kind of sticking up and crooked and I bent down to touch it. It wasn't attached at all. And I lifted it up in my hand. Right then, my asinine stoned teenage brain decided to put it in my backpack. I thought I'd somehow honor this stranger more than the shitty groundskeeper leaving it all willy-nilly in the middle of the aisle. None of my friends saw what I did. Q hours later. Sober. And the guilt and panic are setting in. I hid the plate in my closet for about a year before I chucked it back over the fence one day late at night. I hope Bessie Jane Holmes doesn't mind that I kept her for a while. I still think back and shudder at the guilt of such immoral efkery. When I was 7, my dad was dating this woman and they seemed pretty happy. But she had a son who would molest me for months in my own room and eventually lead to him upping me. If I was to have told anyone, that would break up our parents and I didn't want my dad to be sad, so I just took it. Every year I write my parents a Christmas card signed by Sarah and Michael. They still have no idea who they are and spend a lot of Christmas Day trying to figure it out. Edit. Looks like I've ruined the lives of 1,000 plus parents. Sorry boomers. When I was a kid I used to shit in a tire in the garden because I was scared of getting locked in the toilet. I sharted on a New Year's party bus a few years ago. I thought it was just a fart, but it was a small shotgun blast of fluid. I stayed calm and threw away my undies at the next bar. That my dad paid my mom $1,500 for full custody of my youngest sibling. Not only would this be a massive blow to my sibling, but my dad remarried quite quickly and the new wife is the very definition of an evil stepmom. If my sibling knew that our mom gave her up for such a small sum of money and the trade-off was 5+ years of abuse, she would be destroyed. I agreed to a first date with someone to make him stop crying. 6 years later we're happily engaged and doing great. I don't know how well he remembers that. But I'm not bringing it up. Edit. Has he stopped crying yet? As a teenager, I had cancer multiple times and nearly died a lot. At one point, I spent several weeks in intensive care and survived despite no doctor thinking that I possibly could live. More than 20 years later, Everyone I know still comments on how I survived purely on will to live. I actually spent every moment in that hospital bed in absolute agony. Desperately wanting to die. Edit. Thank you to the kind folks for my first Reddit awards and for all of the kind words. I'm healthy now and doing well. So my grandfather had a hand in making one of the World Series trophies back in the day. He never got any credit. But we have photos and parts from his prototype. When I was a teen I added what I knew to Wikipedia since why not, although I believe it's gone now. But funny story, I ended up being touted in newspapers all over the country. Proceed to a few years later I get a call from my mom who's almost in tears of joy. She found that wiki page and was freaking out. She was so happy he finally got credit. She ended up making really fancy shadow boxes of the wiki page printed out. Copies of the photos and other baseball stuff. She made one for each of her siblings. I've had to just bite my tongue every time I go over there and see this thing hanging prominently in the living room. I ended up being touted in newspapers all over the country. It sounds like he did get the credit he deserved. Sometimes we have to speak up for those who won't speak up for themselves. My mother is cheating on my father and my father is cheating on my mother. They both know I know this but made me promise not to tell the other parent. My first car accident back in high school was not because I swerved to miss a deal like I told my dad and the police. I actually tried to pull the emergency brake and do a 180 while going 50 miles per hour downhill. Had I gone off the other side of the road I would have gone down a 50-foot hill and into the river. That was the last time I ever tried anything like that. There just so happened to be deer tracks in the mud near the ditch where I ended up. I avoided a ticket and my dad paid to fix my car. I have never told him the truth in the 15+ years since. My dad cheated on my mom and invited the person over when I was 9. She was a severely overweight woman and my dad is also quite overweight. My parents were fighting but trying to work things out. They slept in separate rooms at this point. Earlier that day I had jumped on his bed and broke the board supporting it on the bed frame. I wasn't allowed to do this and always got in trouble for this reason. My mom smelled the fact that my dad had company because she smoked. In my house. He asked if I jumped on the bed. I said no. I feared I'd get in trouble. I was surprised there was no follow-up trying to prove my guilt. Years later I remember why she asked and realized my lie basically incriminated him to f-king her. I'm sure he did but that got him kicked out of my house. TL. DR. I broke the damn bed. I'm a guy. When I was around 9-10 I had a friend, also guy, who pushed me up against the wall and started jacking me off. He started doing this frequently and made me masturbate in front of him with one of my parents' personal massagers. I tried to tell on him one time but went back on it really quickly. I think my mom knew what was going on though. Felt a bit like Stockholm because he was one of my only friends back then and I was really scared and confused. Then another friend started dry humping me at a sleepover one time. Being sexualized so early on in life really f-ked me up. One time. When I was like 10. I went to a Walmart and scratched the backs off of 20 Google Play gift cards. Without paying. And tried using them. I was arped with an implement in the youth room of my childhood church by my two best friends at the time. We were basically alone in the building at the time. One did it. And the other held me down. They thought it was a joke funny. Even once I started screaming. One of them had a moment of clarity and I suppose realized that what they were doing was wrong. And made the other person stop. And they sat there with me for a few minutes until I'd calmed down. Once I regained myself enough to stand. I racked one of them between the legs with a pool cue. Their parents were waiting in the parking lot. And they were going to call the cops on me until my friend confessed what they'd done to their parents. I was pressured into silence by the pastor and at the parents' behest. I've told people. So I guess it's not technically a secret. But nobody's believed me because I'm a big guy. And always have been. The last person I tried to talk to about it actually smacked me in the face. So I guess I'll be dying with this one. Edit. Many years ago, an ex-girlfriend of mine got so shit-faced at a bar on Halloween that she passed out and pissed all over the seat. Everyone saw. It was everywhere. She didn't know anyone at the bar. Thankfully, she woke up the next morning and had no memory of it happening. She told me how much fun she had. I decided to keep that one to myself. She would have been so mortified. My dad left me in the car at a strip club while he went inside and spent almost 2 hours in there. At least he left me with food and water, but he promised me to not tell my mom. I used to be so depressed when I was young. I tried to kill myself and used to puke whenever I was alone in my house. Because my grandmother and my cousins used to tell me that I was fat and ugly and a lot of really bad tea. I grew up without my dad and I went to meet him this summer for the first time ever. I realized he loves me but know enough to ever come visit me. Admitting that makes me sick to my stomach and sad as FCK is something I just can't do to anyone. Neither to him. This guy was bullying me at a camp when I was like 14. So I jizzed all over his pillow. And he slept on it. A girl I knew for 3 years told me she gets up-head by her half-brother every week. She doesn't like it and doesn't want to tell her mom. Since her mom has been married 6 times and she says that she is very happy with her current husband. She doesn't want to ruin her mom's relationship. So she just keeps going on with it against her will. She sweared on her life that I'm the only one who knows about this. And she begs me not to tell anyone. And the problem is that if I want to and if it gets exposed, she will immediately know it's me. For the love of God. And I can't stress this enough. Call the cops. Get her therapy soon. Do it for everyone, especially her. Sometimes you have to do what's best for someone when if they get mad at you. The real reason I didn't end up hanging myself was that my cat never stopped watching me while I was crying with the rope on the neck. My first car crash was me. All my fault. The passenger side was all scraped and dented and you couldn't open the passenger front door. What I did was get gas and made a sharp turn into the stall and hit all the poles and concrete squares they make. I don't know what they're called. I told the insurance company somebody sideswiped me and it was a hit and run and I got my car fixed, and to make it worse my mom's friend works at a shop and instead of the $500 deductible he charged me $200 and told the insurance company I paid the full $500. I feel guilt 4 years later. So my parents divorced when I was a baby and my father got married with my future ex-stepmom. She got pregnant but wanted to get an abortion. She soon discovered my father was a shitty parent. At the last minute, she decided to keep the baby. My brother doesn't know he barely never existed. I discovered the trust in their divorce papers and had to swear to never tell anybody. Peace. Now it turned out my father is ever shittier, but I'm very happy to have my brother with me in all the family drama. Edit. My sister molested me when I was really young. Still not over it. Still live with her. I don't even know if she even remembers it. For reference, she is 6 years older than me. And she definitely knew what she was doing at the time. I didn't. But I was willing to do it. When I was like 4 we played electric chair truth or dare. And she make me do stuff. I still remember what I did. But I would rather not recount that here. Edit. Thank you guys. I think I'm gonna work on trying to tell my therapist. A guy who worked with my fiance wouldn't stop sending her lewd texts. Or trying to give her weird gropey inappropriate hugs at work. One day he tried to drag her into a broom closet but she fought him off. The booziness treated the sexual harassment claims like they were just playful roughhousing that was overreacted to. So, I put on a ski mask. Crouched behind his truck. And when he came out I pepper sprayed him in the face. Then beat the shit out of him with a tire iron. Then I took his phone and wallet to make it look like a mugging. A girl I knew years ago was up-head by a guy I used to run around with. I told her I would handle it and she begged me not to. Saying that he told her that she would ruin her life forever. Instead I just went over and picked her and drove around with her all night talking about whatever to make her feel like someone was there for her. At my mom's boss's Christmas party. IGF at the time and I had SX in front of the venue behind a pine tree. I have thought about killing myself every day for nearly a year now. Haven't told a soul. Not sure if I will actually do it or not, which is what scares me. My depression and anxiety and stress has gotten so bad I can barely leave the house. Hey man, I'm in the same place really. Only thing that keeps me from doing it is what it would do to my parents. Think about those in your life and try to find that one person or those people who would truly be affected by your death. I know that some people don't have those, but if you can't find anyone like that, then message me. Maybe you and I can get through this together. You're stronger than you think you are. Best of luck, man. I was the guy who accidentally dropped water on a gay couple kissing in the middle of the road to protest from my balcony. It went viral in my country for a few days. Thank God nobody recognized me. That I was up head at university and my former best friend facilitated it. We went on a night out and she spiked my drink. Knowing I wasn't capable of consenting, she allowed her FWB to take me back to his and subject me to brutal sex. I cut her off a few months later when I realized she had zero remorse. I still have absolutely no idea what would possess someone to offer up a vulnerable friend like that. I'm pretty sure my dad's accident was suicide, and that it was caused by my mom. My retired father finally got a smartphone. I offered to show him how to use, i.e. make calls, text and so on. When I get to his place, he only had the phone about 7 hours. His phone was running extremely slow for a new phone. I open the running apps and all I see is a cascade of open windows with the headers of PRN Hub. The man hadn't interacted with the internet before that 7 hours, but he figured out how to find PRN before making a phone call. I won't tell mom ever, cause she's the type that thinks watching PRN is along to cheating. That when I was 14 or 15 I tried to hang myself in my room. I was being bullied pretty bad. Had no self-esteem. Just got broken up with. I used my school tie over a curtain rail. When I jumped down, the curtain rail snapped and I landed on the floor. I looked up and kinda laughed at the situation. Things got better. I am now nearly 30. Have a beautiful wife. Amazing 5-year-old and a job I love. If you ever feel like there is no way out, then seek help. It can always get better. I have never told anyone this and I'm finding it very hard to hit the post button. But here goes. Don't care enough to make a throwaway for this because it was so long ago, but when I was 14 my mom left me alone overnight to go to Colorado with her fiancé registered sign. Yes, that isn't okay. I know. Comma me being a dumbass posted I was home alone on MySpace and a boy who rode my bus messaged me asking if he could come over. I said yes. We had sex. Consensual. He took my virginity. He was probably 16 or 17? I can't remember. Not even an hour later his older brother messaged me asking to come over. I said yes. I honestly don't know why. We had sex, also consensual, and when he went to penetrate I said your brother just popped my cherry. And he said well let me finish it for him. Gross, I know. IDK what the FCK I was thinking. He was definitely 18. Too old to be having sex with a 14-year-old. And yes, he knew my age. I kept hooking up with the older brother until he graduated and went to college. Only one person knows this and she probably doesn't even remember me telling her.